Some 32 minutes after 6 a.m. Let's look at what the newspapers are reporting. We'll touch base with a few of the online portals as well. My colleague Joseph Akable, who's kept me company, some part of last week and this week, really. Good morning to you, Joseph.
Good morning, Mamavi.
Good weekend?
I was here.
Yeah,
it wasn't a weekend. The weekend at the office is just like continuation of the working week.
True. You'll have a weekend this weekend.
Yeah. That's the good thing about the system here.
What's good about the system that makes you work on a weekend?
Well, when you do so, you need to wait for about 3 more weeks before you come over another weekend.
Yeah, okay. In that sense, then it's good.
That's a bit better.
Yeah, it's true. Now, let's look at the newspapers. I see you have the Daily Graphic.
Yes, the front page of the Daily Graphic this morning, it says 8,000 National Service personnel in trouble for alleged impersonation. There's a photograph of Mr. Mustafa Yusuf, the acting executive director of the National Service Scheme. We also have another one here that says Ghana has 64 kilometers functional rail tracks with 1,400 workers, according to the Minister for Railway Development, Joe Gart. His photograph is captured over there. Accra bus stop now, lorry parks, AMA looks on, details on pages 48 and 49. Let's start with that one concerning Ghana having 64 kilometers functional rail tracks. That is not so much if you consider the entire country, just 64 kilometers. And the interesting thing about this is that largely these sections were developed in the colonial times when the goal was to have our gold and bauxite move from the hinterland over to the coastline and taken away. Yeah. And since independence, we've tried our possible best to have more lines across the country. That is why that ministry has been set up, and the minister
I'm actually also trying to look for the definition of functional.
That in itself, okay, so it also means that we may have more, but in terms of the ones that we are utilizing, it's just the 64 kilometers. And we all know that even the functional ones, we know the challenges that they also pose.
So that's what I'm actually looking at. I'm just thinking, okay, functional, but how much are they contributing? How much are we actually utilizing, if you like? Yeah.
But it's one sector that the government appears to be very interested in, and there's a whole ministry for that. So we expect that after 2020, we should be talking about 100 or more and not just 64 kilometers. Okay.
Now, whilst we have this news in the paper this morning, I guess we also have to remind ourselves of the derailment and the committee that was set up. I think it's on the 7th of November or so that the reports. Yeah, so we have to keep an eye on that.
But another one here has to do with Accra bus stops now, lorry parks. It's something I've noticed. The bus stops are just places where you have to drop passengers briefly. If you have to pick people, then you pick them and move quickly. But this time around, when you go across town, you have the vehicles, they park, they take their time, they call on passengers, and they come on. And there are these individuals who sometimes are holding canes. They more or less help the vehicles to get the passengers, and when they are leaving, they have to give them some money. And the report says that the paper has contacted MTTD, the AMA. They've complained about it in the past, but it appears in terms of enforcement to ensure that those individuals get off the road is becoming a bit difficult.
When you open the center spread of the Daily Graphic newspaper, where we have this particular story, I think the graphic has done an amazing job. What they've done in the Accra metropolis alone, they've identified some 18 spots where the bus stops have been turned into proper lorry stations.
Trotros waiting to their turn to lead passengers at the PTC bus stop circle. There's another one, 37 military hospital bus stop is gradually being turned, and we also have another one at the Max Mat also being turned into a station. Another one at Kaneshi. So it affects traffic in terms of the movement of vehicles, because there are other vehicles that want to stop. Sometimes because they've taken over that part, the vehicle has to stop on a main road, and that also makes it very difficult. So maybe the AMA should.
And I think what is not also even good for the MTTD at all. Apparently, from the story, that there was a directive back in 2014 to get rid of all these.
In fact, they handed them an April deadline in 2014.
And when we were in 2017, and this is October 2017, and the situation has worsened. MTTD, are you in charge of your own directives? Apparently not. Just check the center spread of the Daily Graphic newspaper. So that's a very good story in the graphic this morning. You're through?
Yes.
Well, something that will be happening tomorrow, that headline on the front page of the Daily Graphic, the Graphic Business Stanbic Bank breakfast meeting on Agric is tomorrow. We're going to carry that live here on the show tomorrow. So God willing, we will be live from there tomorrow, the AM show as well. So just look out for that. But just before we wrap up on the graphic, this 8,000 national service personnel in trouble.
The story is on page 16.
Okay.
Let me quickly flip to that side because national service impersonation, that is worrying. Okay, so the story here says the National Service Secretariat has withheld the allowances of 8,000 national service personnel for September 2017 on suspicion of impersonation and disqualification. A statement signed by the acting executive director of the National Service Secretariat, Mr. Mustafa Yusuf, said the allowance of 58,000 personnel had, however, been paid for the month of September 2017. So he said individual e-switch accounts of personnel had been credited and asked the service points to lead their cards to assess their allowance. So it has to do with the validation process, and for some of them they couldn't validate them to ensure that you.
So what, they went to register when they knew they were not qualified?
Yes, and so
I didn't think the National Service Secretariat would do any background checks.
Perhaps they, you know, in terms of ghost names being on public payroll is something that has always been with us for some time now. So they were thinking that they could have their way and end up on it. But it appears the NSS is ready to crack down on them, and that is why they're able to identify these 8,000 individuals.
But I take the 8,000 on a face value. I'm sure there will be some people amongst the 8,000 who are genuine.
That is true. Yeah. That is true. It has always been the case. So. But the thing about this allowance also is that it's actually delayed. We are October has already ended, and this is September allowance that they've been paid. So that is also another angle of the whole story. Even though they've done what to pay for September, October has ended. We are just about moving into November shortly.
But that's how it's always been, right?
It depends. I was in the private sector, so I can't tell for those who are.
So yours was a bit.
It was always prompt.
Okay. All right. Good for you then. Let's see what's on the back page just before we wrap up on the graphic.
Classic Kotoko win MTN FA Cup. I watched that game, and at the end of the first half, Kumasi St. Kotoko were leading by 3 goals.
Wait, hang on. Was it a good game, or it was just a game? You know, you're just looking to win, or was it entertaining? I guess
it was.
Okay.
I mean, particularly in the second half. For the first half, Kotoko were largely dominant. They played very well and they scored 3 goals. But for the second half, Hearts came back into the game and they brought the game to Kotoko and they managed to pull 1 goal back.
Charlie, my own Hearts of Oak.
Yeah, and you don't have...
for this one, it's not 1-0.
3-1.
That you can say that something went something. But
all 3 goals were scored by one person, Sadiq Adams. I'm sure Benedict will tell us, will bring us the highlights.
Yeah, exactly. I will get to watch, the goals as they were scored. There's also another story. Prisons ditch police in Sanford FA Cup final. All right. We'll bring you more sports stories. The goals as they were scored. If you're a Roger Federer fan, then you know that he picked another title. I think it's the 7th in 2017. I love that 36-year-old.
He doesn't seem to get tired of winning.
No way. So we'll bring you a lot more sporting stories when Benedict joins us. Let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper front page of the Times. War against Galamsey. Tax force destroys 1,859 machines. Arrests 815 Galamseyers in the last 3 months. The paper is reporting also clashes between Fulani herdsmen. Farmers claim 9 lives. NPP youth assault Adeso assembly members. And this, it's not stopping, is it? What else can the NPP do to make these unlawful acts by persons purported to be youth members of their party? What can they do to stop? Fortunately for us here on the show, we've got the acting general secretary joining us. So this is a massive conversation that we will have. I mean, it's almost like every day there's one story or the other in one newspaper or one, somewhere, one story somewhere talking about some youth in the party.
Some form of violence, engaging in some form of violence.
They have some guts, and it's going around. This one is Adeso. It's been largely up north for the past 2 weeks.
They seem to be very powerful, and it's unfortunate. I listened to the youth organizer on Newsfile on Saturday, and he said the security couples are breaking the president's heart because the president expects them to act. And my thought was that, I mean, if I've appointed you to act and you're not acting, my heart cannot be broken. I have to fire you.
It's a shame. It's a shame, really. So, also 26 Togolese arrested for unlawful demonstration They were demonstrating here in Accra, more like in solidarity with their other citizens back home.
It's actually much easier to demonstrate in Accra than in Lome, because those guys who are demonstrating in Lome, they are being arrested left, right, center. But in Ghana, once you go according to our laws,
they didn't.
They didn't.
Yeah,
yes, we are told they failed to notify the police. That was why they've been picked up.
All right, so you can check all the stories out in the Ghanaian Times newspaper quickly. And I can't believe it. When I spend time with Joseph, the time just runs really fast. Let's do the Finder newspaper. Or Joseph will bring us the Daily Guide newspaper, and then we'll go to... No, we have the Finder, so let's stick with the Finder, and then we'll do the...
Okay.
Oh, okay. Just going round. Front page of the Finder. Customs officers to face sanctions if caught dealing with Goro boys at borders, according to the commissioner. His picture is on the front page of the paper. Isaac Krensel, Commissioner of Customs. Also, Ghana Post GPS has robust security infrastructure, according to a minister. You might want to read the details to know which of the ministers is saying this. Ghana can earn $1.9 billion premiums on cocoa through fair trade system. Peace critical for development, Nanado tells Kurbos, and 9 dead after Fulani herdsmen and farmers clash. Joseph?
That is also another running story. But let's do Daily Guide. Daily Guide says EC boss a pink sheet contract pops up and 515 Galamseyers arrested. So that we have the screen. It's on our screen here. NDC gurus in dirty fight over VIP position. There's a photograph of Teria Boatin, also John Mahama and Samuel Ofusu Ampofo. But the bit about the Galamseyers, it appears that task force, since they were deployed, they are doing quite a good job. 515 arrested so far, according to Daily Guide. I think the other paper had it to be more than that, around 800 or so. But beyond the arrest, they should put them before court. I recall there was one in the Western region. They were sentenced and they were just fined some bigger amount. So it's one thing that we should also be checking. You don't just prosecute people just for the fun of it. You should give them sentence that warns others who are already out there. They know that my friend has been handed 15, 10 years. They know that I shouldn't engage in that crime.
Okay, so I see the paper is not serializing. It's not talking about the Kozibocho report today, but they are talking about some NDC gurus
identified over the position. So the story has to do with, we are told that when former President Mills, the late Mills, passed on, Samuel Ofusu Ampofo was interested in being named as the vice president, but questions were raised about his academic credentials, and that is being the story has been attributed to Teria Boatin, who disclosed that information.
That's the Eastern Region NPP chairman, the one who's alleged to have been given some 1 million. I think that's also reported by the paper. Yes, that issue came up.
The current Eastern Regional chairman of the NDC.
Yeah. All right, let's do the online portals as well. Let me read this message that's come through. You can send me a WhatsApp message or a regular SMS message. Akoto Razak in Tamale says the behavior of some angry youth in NPP is due to the job they promised them. Like can't govern is one of the things we'll put up. I mean, what did they tell them really?
I actually saw a new online reportage attributed to the information minister saying that they should be patient. They will have their share of the national cake.
So they've waited enough.
Yes, and they've seen others who are...
And they haven't seen the share.
Others are taking bits and pieces and large chunks of the national cake. So they are worried.
Oh, I see. Let's do myjoyonline.com. Ghana Post GPS. Why pay Google $400,000 a year? Apparently that's how much we're paying them for, occupying the space. System. Yeah. So you can read more about it on myjoyonline.com. Also on the page, rural banks want extension of December deadline for minimum capital requirements. HIV/AIDS Commission in talks with traditional healers over cure. So Ghana AIDS Commission has engaged traditional healers on claims by some of them that they have a cure for HIV/AIDS. Guinness Ghana judge CSR Company of the Year. Ghana card to be primary ID card for all services. 16% of children are out of school, according to a World Bank report. Ghana gets $5 million from the US to fight child trafficking. And And police arrest Asing at Dadientim juvenile charged with defiling 4-year-old girl. Lots of stories on our page, myjoyonline.com. We'll urge you to visit the page and read a lot more on the stories in detail. Let's see what City FM is reporting. Joseph?
So City FM, 8 dead residents flee after Fulani farmers clash. An NPP government has lost control over vigilantism. Is coming from former President John Dramani Mahama there. We also have another one that says Vitin SHS students sleeping under trees. Very worrying story. And that photograph, you can see where the students are sleeping. Maybe in the event there's a downpour. What happens to these students? I mean, with their mosquito nets.
SHS
students.
And you know, the thing that's troubling, I think the most troubling is the fact that the heads of these schools are not now willing to talk again. Because if you look at what happened to the PESEC headmaster, you'll be demoted, you'll be taken somewhere else to do some other job. So nobody is talking. So individuals who can even help these institutions, they won't get them to help.
That's
Nobody's
true.
talking.
Because after he spoke, I mean, some furniture went in there, some donations. So we expect them to speak about it, but they can't talk about it. But another one here says 3 feared dead in Yendi after locals clash. A lot of security issues coming up. So more stories still on City FM. Over 70 being investigated for NSS fraud. That story that was on the front page of the Daily Graphic as well, being captured here on City FM. But that was 8,000.
I think the graphic was reporting 8,000.
They are talking about 70 being investigated for suspected fraud in a payment of allowance. Okay.
All right, let's finish off quickly with the BBC. Let's see what the BBC is reporting heavily on. Somali security chiefs fired over blast. There was a 12 hours back and forth with insurgents in Somalia. And this coming right, like 2 weeks after the deadliest of attacks where more than 350 people died. So this happened in a hotel and Al-Shabaab has taken responsibility. Remember the earlier one, nobody claimed responsibility for that, but they quickly did for this. And they gave reasons for attacking this particular hotel because they said some top military and decision makers in the country were meeting, and that was their targets.
They are not thinking about those who may have nothing to do with whatever meeting is taking place.
They're not. All they care about is casualties should be officials, of the country. So that's the story that's there. I don't see Kenya, but I've heard a lot about Kenya. I've read a lot about Kenya. So what is latest is that the opposition leader Raila Odinga, he slammed the country's presidential election rerun. He's called it a sham and has called for another vote to be held within 90 days. We know that not the entire country actually voted. There was low turnout as well, and he's saying that if it was the low turnout, should tell you that this was not a proper election and you can't win on that basis.
I've not seen any laws about elections and the threshold in terms of those who are supposed to take part in the elections.
Yeah.
I mean, once there's voting across the country, there will be declaration of results. Odinga, I fear, may be acting too powerful than he actually is. It's a call. I mean, the courts didn't even try to stop the EC from organizing the polls unless he heads to court again and has a good reason to nullify this rerun elections. Apart from that, it's just a bold.
So he wants a rerun of the rerun election in some 90 days. We'll see how it goes. We're still following very much events in Kenya, and we'll bring you anything new that we get from that country. Joseph, thank you for your company again today. Enjoy the day.
Sure.
All right.